Goddess Saraswati for the lighting of lamps ceremony. Chief guest sir should must be escorted to the place so that the lighting of lamps ceremony could be organized. Just to start any big moment, we need to worship the goddess of wisdom, goddess of knowledge. This is our Indian tradition, and I would request other dignitaries also to accompany the chief guest sir for the purpose. And I would request Dr. Shruti Srivastav, Associate Professor, Department of English, to be ready for recitation of Saraswati Vandana. Dr. Shruti Srivastav.
या कुन्देन्दु तुषार हार धवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रामृता या वीणा वरदण्डमण्डित करा या श्वेतपद्मासना शङ्कर प्रभृतिभिः देवै सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निशेषजाड्यापहा शुक्लां ब्रह्म विचारसार परमाम् आद्यां जगद्व्यापिनीं वीणा पुस्तकधारिणीमभयदां जाड्यान्धकारापहाम् हस्ते स्फटिकमालिकां विदधतीं पद्मासने संस्थितां वन्दे तां परमेश्वरीं भगवतीं बुद्धिं प्रदां शारदाम्
Thank you, Dr. Shruti ma'am. Thank you very much for this beautiful rendition. Now, I would request our respected principal sir to come over the dais to deliver his. No, sorry, I'm skipping. Now, I must start the felicitation round. The distinguished guests must be felicitated, and for that, I would request Professor Arun Kumar Dixit sir to felicitate Madam Ananta Swarupji, the senior member of the Board of Management of this college, with a bouquet. Madam Ananta Swarup is over here. She is presiding this session of the inauguration of the seminar. Professor Arun Kumar Dixit sir self greet Ananta Swarup ma'am with a bouquet. And I would request Mr. Ashok Kumar Srivastav, the accountant of this college, to be here to felicitate ma'am with memento. Now I would request Madam Ananta Sarup to felicitate the chief guest of this inaugural session, Justice B.N. Sri Krishna sir, with a bouquet and the memento. Justice Sri Krishna is an eminent jurist who has been closely associated with many issues of national importance involving legal ramifications, in addition to having served as the judge of the Bombay High Court and also the judge of the Supreme Court of India. Honorable Justice Sri Krishna is the Vice President of the Bharati Vidya Bhavan and the Trustee of India International Center. So dignified a personality is among us. We are truly very happy to have him among us. Now, I request Professor Puspen Tripathi sir to be here to felicitate the special guest of the occasion, Professor R.K. Dwivedi sir, the Director of the CDC, CSJM University Kanpur. Professor Puspen Tripathi sir shall felicitate him with a bouquet. And I would request Professor N.P. Tiwari sir, the head of the Department of Military Studies, to be here to felicitate the distinguished guest with the memento. Professor Dwivedi is the director of the College Development Council of the CSJM University Kanpur. He is an alumnus of IIT Kanpur for his M.Tech and doctorate in material science. Professor Dwivedi has a glittering profile as an academician, as an administrator and researcher, which all attest to his holistic brilliance. Now, I'd request Professor Manoj Srivastava sir, the head of Department of Economics, to be here to felicitate the principal of our college and also the convener of this seminar, Professor Arun Kumar Dixit sir. And I would also request Professor B.P. Singh of the same department to be ready for offering memento to principal sir. Very energetic, too much given to elevation of the stature of this college, very hardworking. He is slightly sluggish in health because of certain health related problem. नहीं है? Then I would request Professor Rajat Kumar sir to come over here to felicitate Principal sir with a memento. He had just recuperated from a mild coronary problem, but now it's time to felicitate the person who took too much pain for organizing this seminar, Professor B.M. Mishra sir. And for that, I would invite Professor Sandhya Singh, ma'am, of Department of Military Studies, to offer him bouquet. And I would request Dr. Amren Pratap Gaur of the same department to be here to felicitate Professor Mishra sir with the memento of the seminar. Dr. Amrendra Pratap Gaur. Mishra sir took truly very strong pains for organizing the seminar. He is too much committed, dedicated, a very eminent faculty in the college. Now, the felicitation round is over, and it's time now for inviting my principal sir to deliver his welcome address. Respected principal sir.
A very good morning to all of you. Before I start, I must remember the immortalized soul of late Sri Nagen Swarup ji, who was our conscience keeper and custodian all through his tenure as the secretary of the board of management of this college. His noble soul must be showering its blessings on us from heavens to conclude the seminar with finish. As the principal of this Heritage College, with due permission of the chairperson of this inaugural session, I rise to welcome you all to this August gathering on the occasion of this ICSSR sponsored national seminar on India's cybersecurity challenges and options. I feel truly overwhelmed by the glittering presence of eminent individuals at the dais. Equally overwhelming is the presence of participants in the audience who have come from various institutions across the country to participate in this seminar. I feel, I feel truly overwhelmed by the glittering presence of eminent individuals at the dais. Equally overwhelming is the presence of participants in the audience who have come from various institutions across the country to participate in this seminar and witness an enriching discussion on the varied facets of India's cyber security. I heartily welcome you all to this seminar, which I truly believe will provide impetus to strengthening India's cyber security and provide relevant inputs to research scholars, academicians, law enforcement officials, as well as law and policy makers. I am delighted to share that we have with us learned resource persons and acclaimed academicians who shall shed light on the topic of this national seminar. I heartily and most humbly welcome Honorable Justice B.N. Sri Krishna ji, former judge of the Supreme Court of India, who is kind enough to spare some valuable time from his extremely busy schedule to grace the occasion as a keynote speaker and also as the chief guest of the inaugural session of this seminar. Honorable Justice Sri Krishna served as the judge of the Supreme Court from the year 2002 to 2006. Justice Sri Krishna is an eminent Indian jurist who was appointed as a one-man commission to inquire into the causes of the Bombay riots of 1992 while serving as a judge in the High Court of Bombay. He has been the head of several significant commissions such as the Sixth Central Pay Commission, the Committee for Consultations on the Situations in Andhra Pradesh, the Financial Sector Legislative Reforms Commission, the Expert Committee on Arbitration in India, and more recently, the Committee to draft Data Protection Framework in India. Currently, Honorable Justice Sri Krishna is the Vice President of Bharati Vidya Bhavan and the Trustee of the India International Center. Sir, your vast experience as a jurist will be immensely enlightening for us. We are honored to have you amongst us and eager to listen to your words of refined wisdom. Sir, on behalf of this Heritage College, I heartily welcome you to the inaugural session of this seminar. I welcome Madam Ananta Swaroop ji, the senior member of the Board of Management of the college, to this momentous occasion of the National Seminar on India's cyber security. We are overwhelmed by your gracious presence as the chairperson of the inaugural session and feeling charged for giving the best in us, madam. Now, I would like to welcome the special guests at this inaugural session. Professor R.K. Dwivedi, sir. Professor Dwivedi is the director of the College Development Council of CSGM University, Kanpur, an eminent physicist. Professor Dwivedi completed his MTech and doctorate in material science from IIT Kanpur and is a regular faculty in physics department in Christ Church College, Kanpur. Professor Dwivedi did his postdoctoral research at CNR CEFSA in Trento, Italy. He is the winner of many international and national fellowships, has published research papers in journals of repute and conducted many conferences which attest to his academic brilliance. I welcome you, sir, from the core of my heart to this inaugural session. We are delighted by your presence with us. My heart is filled with immense gratefulness for my invited guests who are gracing the occasion, sitting in the first row of the dais, Professor, Associate Professor K. Pandey, National Law, Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia, National Law University, Lucknow, Associate Professor of Law and Registrar, National Law University, Aurangabad, Professor A.K. Wadze Saab, Professor S.B. Singh Saab, ex-member Uttar Pradesh Higher Education Commission, who is amongst us, Professor B.D. Pandey Saab, who is the President of Kanpur University Teachers Association, Professor Das ji, who has come from Bombay, and many more guests who have gracing this occasion on my invitation. I welcome them all. I welcome you all to the inaugural session of this seminar. Last but not the least, my heart is brimming with gratitude for representatives from electronic and print media who shall be disseminating the outcome of this seminar to common people. I welcome you all from the bottom of my heart for witnessing a never before kind of event in Kanpur. Your criticism and analysis of the entire event shall be valuable to us. Finally, I welcome all other participants who are here in this auditorium in various capacities as professors, researchers, and scholars. Without you, this seminar would never succeed in its intended objective. Your patient audience will be an encouragement to the distinguished resource persons present with us. Once more, I welcome you all from the depth of my heart and express my overwhelming gratitude for gracing this very significant seminar with your presence. Thank you all. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you, Principal Sir. Thank you very much. Now it's time to felicitate the invited guests who are sitting over there in the audience. And for that, here among us, the resource persons of the next session are also sitting. So I would request Professor Manoj Kumar Johri sir, Professor Manoj Kumar Johri sir, to felicitate Dr. K. A. Pandey, Associate Professor, Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia, National Law University, Lucknow. Now, I request the head of department of botany, Professor Jitendra Mohan sir, to come and felicitate another distinguished guest sitting over here, Dr. Ashok Panditrao Vajje. Dr. Jitendra Mohan sir, it looks he is not here. I would request Professor Sunit Avasthi sir to come and greet the distinguished guest. He is the resource person for the next technical session. Now I would request Professor Anil Kumar Sinha sir, the head of Department of Sanskrit, to greet Professor B.D. Pandey sir, the president of KUTA, and also the faculty head of the Department of English, PPN College Kanpur. Now, another distinguished guest, a resource person for the next session, Dr. Vishwa Kalyan Das is also sitting among us. He is a distinguished faculty from University of Ahmedabad. I would request Professor Deek Sikha Chaturvedi, ma'am, the head of Department of Political Science, to come and greet him. Dr. Vishwa Kalyan Das. Engineer Harsh Tomar sir is sitting. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Please be seated. Now I would request Professor Sudhir Srivastava sir, Professor Sudhir Srivastava sir, to greet Engineer Harsh Tomar. He is the system engineer and expert in software development. He is from Infosys Limited, Bengaluru. Dr. Engineer Harsh Tomar, a very distinguished software engineer. His services are used by Government of India for certain strategic purposes. Very distinguished person. Now among us is Dr. Sher Bahadur Singh, ex-principal and the member of Uttar Pradesh Higher Education Services Commission. I would request Professor Suman Gupta ma'am, Head of Department of English, to come and felicitate and greet the distinguished guest with a bouquet. Now I would request Professor R.B. Tiwari sir, Head of Department of Statistics, to come and greet Professor Mukesh Kumar Singh, the principal of Armapur PG College. Now, Professor Pankaj Tandon of Department of Zoology, he is the head of Department of Zoology. I would request him to come and greet Professor A.K. Singh from PPN College. Professor A.K. Singh. Thank you, Tandon sir. Thank you very much. Now, the organizers of this seminar have published a souvenir and also a book of the compilation of the proceedings of the seminar in the form of proceedings of the seminar. Now, I would request the dignitaries on the stage for the release of the book. First souvenir. This must be assisted by the faculty members of Department of Military Studies, if they are here. A souvenir of the seminar and also the book published incorporating the contributions, paper article contributions to the seminar. Please. Thank you, sir. Thank you all for releasing the book and the souvenir. Now, I would invite the organizing secretary of the seminar, Professor B. M. Mishra, sir, to introduce the seminar to the audience. Professor B. M. Mishra, sir.
Uh, Good morning to all of you. I am feeling greatly overwhelmed by the sight of great luminaries who are adorning gracefully the stage today on the occasion of inaugural session of ICSSR sponsored national seminar on India's cyber security challenges and options. I am finding myself at loss of word to express my feelings about theme befitting their dignity. I welcome and thanks Honorable Justice B.N. Sri Krishna ji, former judge of the Supreme Court of India, for gracing the occasion. I convey my greetings to Mrs. Uh, Ananta Swarup ji, the senior member of the Board of Management of the college. I welcome to Professor A.K. Dwivedi sir, who is the incumbent director of the CDC of CSJM University Kanpur, who is gracing the inaugural session as a special guest. I express my sincere thanks to my respected principal sir, who entrusted the task of organizing this seminar to me. I feel boundless gratitude for the other distinguished guests and participants who are over here in the grand auditorium. I am here before you all to introduce the topic of seminar. The perspective of security has not been limited to territorial security. The concept of security has been expanded from individual security to global security. In other words, we can say that it is the age of comprehensive security in which individual to global, tangible and intangible, traditional and non-traditional, internal and external are encompassed. Nowadays, while we are living in cyber age, most of the modern technologies are operated and controlled by cyber technology. In modern age, the information and cyber technology has been become the integral part of individuals, human being to mass of the people. A single corner of the world is not untouched by the phenomena. We have advanced in this field in such a way that it is the impossible to retreat from there. We have almost been depending on this system, and it's horrible to think to live without this individual network. In 21st century, India has entered in the age of information technology. The height that India has culminated in last 2 decades was totally unexpected and unimaginable up to the end of 20th century. Now India is passing through the age of digitalization. Even a single sector is not left whose digitalization has not been done. Agriculture to space, science and infrastructure to life science, everything is depend on digital technology. In coming years, like other developed countries, India economy will also become a major digital economy of the world. As we are advanced towards digitalization, we are becoming more and more vulnerable to cyber threats. These threats are from local to global level. All the informations, whether individual or organizational, local or national, regional or international, are stored in cyberspace, and it is available on demand of the every corner of the world. Even the top secret information related to defense, air transport, research centers, nuclear installations, foreign policies, important document of national interest are also stored in digital form in cyberspace. The storage and transmission of the information is conducted by techno experts of information science, while storing the information in digital form and broadcasting of its conducted every confidentially. Many cases are available to show that any information cannot be claimed to be foolproof. Now, while the total mechanism of the country is working digitally and government is emphasizing to digitalize top to bottom every mechanism of the state, and good techno expert of information technology can hack or crack to information, thus damaging and collapsing the digital framework of the country. If not entirely, the major framework can be targeted. Up to now, some incidents of hacking and cracking the secret information took place. In these incidents, mostly outsiders were involved. In some cases, foreign intelligence agencies and hackers groups were also involved. Mostly the terrorist organizations are trying to crack the walls of cybersecurity. Recently, it was in the news that some top secret information of foreign ministry had been hacked information of foreign and defense ministry. Nuclear installations, DRDO, research centers, laboratories, national importance remained on their target. Last year, it was in the news that some Chinese hackers broke the security wall of account holders of State Bank of India, and bank took immediate action to change the debit and credit cards of its account holders. If these type of incidents take place with other information of national security issue, it will surely create a traumatic condition to the country. In the perspective of concept note, there may be several sub-themes of seminar from which some are being given here. The development of cyber technology in 21st century, the approach of cyber and information technology in human life, the need of cyber and information technology for the development of India, the future of cyber and information technology in India, emerging cyber threats to the national security, major security issue of cyber and information technology, causes and consequences of cyber attacks in India, security measures implemented for cyber security. Thanks to all. Thanks for patience audience to me.
Thank you, Mr. Sir. Thank you very much for your introduction to the seminar delivered here. In fact, I had missed one very important and significant contributor to this seminar, Professor Pankaj Verma from SD College, Aligarh. He must be felicitated for his contribution. I would request Professor Rajiv Srivastava sir, the head of Department of Physics, to greet Dr. Verma, Pankaj Verma sir, with a bouquet. Pankaj Verma sir. Ah, you are there. Take. Now, it's time for the big moment of this occasion. I would request Justice B.N. Sri Krishna sir for his keynote address to come over the dais to address, or he may prefer to address from the place where he's sitting. We have the cardless mic, sir. Should I bring? You will, okay, sir. A very distinguished guest among us. Please, big clap for him.
I'm Madam Ananta Swarup, all the distinguished guests sitting at the dais, distinguished academicians and experts in the respective fields, friends, students, my heartfelt greetings to all of you. Two things. I was invited to talk while sitting there at the dais. As a lawyer, I have always been used to thinking on my feet. So even now I think when I'm on my feet rather than when I sit down. Number two, I was impressed by the name DAV College. DAV College is Dayanand Anglo Vedic Education Society, I believe, right? Now, Anglo is fine. I am wearing a suit made in London, so it's Anglo. So, what is the Vedic part of it? So, I must demonstrate my Vedic part before I go ahead. Prano Devi Saraswati Vaje Bhirbhajini Pati Dhinama Bhitriyavatu. This is a prayer from the Rigveda to the Lady Saraswati, who is the impeller of all wisdom to human beings. With that done, let's get down to today's topic. The topic given to me to be covered in the next 20 minutes is something on which I worked for exactly 1 year, 11 months, and 20 days. So I shall try my best to cover the topic to give a prelude to what your entire seminar is going to be. All of us know about the gold bullion that is kept in the Fort Knox in United States, a very secure place. We also know about the crown jewels which are kept in the Tower of London, another very secure place. You are also personally aware that depending on the security of an item, you treat it differently. If it is just an ordinary pen, paper, or something, you just keep it on your table. Your watch, perhaps you put it in the drawer of your table and lock it. But when it comes to cash, jewelry, important asset, papers, you put them in a safe and lock them. Similarly, it is necessary to apply our minds to this question of data. Now, unfortunately, the concept of what is data and its importance to the human beings has not been fully understood in this country because the concept has developed over the last few years. Now, what is data? I shall address you from the perspective of legal being and enter into a jurisprudential analysis. Data is something that indicates or identifies a human being. Like what? Like my name. The name is my data. My address is my data. Email or email ID or telephone number, mobile number, the number of my vehicle, my address, my height, weight, my medical parameters, they are all my data. Why? Because they are intimately connected to me and identify me as a human being. There is talk, I have heard often people say here and abroad, that data is the new oil of the 21st century. Let me disabuse your mind that data can never be treated as a material in the first place. It is not anybody's property. Why is it not anybody's property? It is not because it does not have the indicia of a property. Now, as students of law, we have been told that property is something that you can possess, you can destroy, sell, mortgage, lease, and gift, the 5 incidents of property. Now, take for example, my name. Can I lend it to somebody for rent for the next 6 months? Obviously, I cannot do that. Let's go one step ahead. When I say this is my data, what do I mean? The possessive pronoun my in the English language, as the professor of English literature will tell you, has different connotations. It indicates simultaneously 2 things. A, an inherent connection between 2 entities, as also the concept of ownership. Unfortunately, when people say this is my data, they emphasize the ownership part of it. Ownership is not really a concept that arises in the case of data. It cannot arise in all cases when you say, this is my person. When I say my wife, my friend, my child, I'm not talking in terms of ownership. I'm sure the ladies in the audience will get up and protest if I say that my wife is owned by me. Certainly not. Ownership is an incident of material property. It cannot be applied qua in immaterial property or human beings. Now, the only time I remember a wife was treated as property was way back during Harish Chandra's time when he had to sell his wife to discharge the debt that was due. That doesn't happen any longer in 2022 with the concept of feminism growing day by day. So obviously data does not mean, when you say it is my data, you're not suggesting that it is my property. What are you then suggesting? You're suggesting the other concept, namely that there is an inalienable connection between me and this entity called data. So when I say this is my data, I mean this is something that is intricately connected with me and indicates me. Once you accept this concept of data, the rest of it falls into place. Now, the whole idea of data in this country, I must confess, has been, it's not an alien concept. People think that, oh, concept data came to us from Europe with the advent of the GDP or something. Certainly not. I remember my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, lived up to be 95. Anytime anybody asked him and said, what is your age? He would say, it's about 60, I think. So one day I was puzzled. I asked him and said, why is it that you keep telling? Can you, sorry, yes. Shreyamsi bahuvignani. If you are trying to do a good thing, there is always some kind of an obstacle. Now, when I asked him and said, why are you always hiding your age? He gave me a verse from the scriptures. It says something like this. Ayurvittam grihachidram mantram aushadha maithune danam manapamanancha navagopyani gopayat. They said that there are 9 things which you must always keep confidential and subject to privacy. What are that? Ayuhu, never disclose your actual age. Of course, in modern day, that is true of all ladies. They never disclose their actual age. Vittam, never disclose your actual property or the bank balance. Grihachidram, don't talk about your domestic troubles and make it public affair. Mantram, whatever mantra that the guru has taught you is intended for you and you cannot disclose it in the public and make it non-private. Aushadam, your medical history, don't disclose it in private, it is confidential. Maithunam, your sexual history, your sexual preferences, don't talk about it in public. Dhanam manapamanecha, then whatever the charity that you do, the accolades that you get, or the abuses that you get, don't go around talking about it. All this is navagopyani gopaya. They should keep them confidential and private. Now, this was the concept in the way back in the early days of our thinkers. Today, we talk in terms of privacy of the data. Now, in this country, data privacy has been the subject matter, at least in legal circles, for quite some time. It was a controversial subject. There was a judgment of the Madras High Court where a prospective groom was investigated by the prospective bride's family through information collected from the doctor. And the doctor disclosed that the boy had HIV, AIDS. And that led to a litigation, and the Madras High Court had to decide whether this was proper, whether there was this concept of data privacy there. It took a particular view. Then there was a case from Madhya Pradesh, I think, where a gentleman was subjected to constant police surveillance. And then he had raised the matter which came up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said that there was something like the right to be private. The issue was not really explored in depth. Controversial and conflicting judgments were there. The whole thing came to the fore with the government of India coming out with Aadhaar. When the Aadhaar was brought to force, if you remember, Aadhaar was just started off as an executive action. There was no legislative entity at all at that time, nor was there any parliamentary enactment to support Aadhaar. Now, some of the activists challenged Aadhaar. One of the grounds of challenge was that it was an infringement of the privacy right of the individual. Now, the privacy right of the individual, when it was debated in the Supreme Court, one of the questions raised was whether it was a fundamental right. And in that judgment, that is the judgment famous known as the K.R. Puttaswamy versus Union of India, the Supreme Court, by a large majority of 7 or 9 judges, I think, came to this conclusion that the concept of or the right of privacy was inherent in Article 21 and it was concomitant with every human being's birth. So something interesting is no fundamental right is conferred by the state. Fundamental right inheres in me because I am a human being. It's a part of our human rights. So the question came up and then the Supreme Court said, yes, this is a fundamental right. Where do you find it? From article? Because in part 3 of the Constitution, there is no enumeration of the right of privacy. So they finally picked on Article 21 and said, 21 deals with life and liberty of the human being. And what is more inherent than privacy in life? Therefore, it must come from Article 21. Good. One of the questions raised when the debate was going on in the Supreme Court is, but what is the law on privacy in this country? So nobody was able to answer that because there was no law. Post haste, the government of India appointed a committee, and for some reason, they picked me as the chairman of the committee to go into this aspect of what is data privacy, what should be the legal structure, what should be the legal architecture and all that. After spending about 18 months, the committee produced a report, a bill of 2018, which went into a number of repeated amendments and wherever different versions, came back as 2019 bill, which was heavily criticized by all persons, including me. Then it went to the JPC, that is the Joint Parliamentary Committee, which suggested another 81 amendments. And it was in such a messy affair that the government ultimately withdrew the whole thing and came out with the 2022 bill. Now, what is the problem with the 2022 bill is a bigger issue, and I shall not go into that because I have very limited time at my disposal. I only want to highlight that there were some fundamental concepts which were analyzed and put forward in the report about what? Privacy, fundamental right, which the Supreme Court has agreed and said that it is a fundamental right. Once something is a fundamental right, you cannot take it away by an ordinary parliamentary enactment. What you require is a special parliamentary constitutional amendment or a parliamentary enactment which passes through some triple tests. What are the triple tests? First of all, Parliament must decide in an enactment as to why it is necessary to infringe the fundamental right, declare its objectives, do it in a reasonable manner, and also have a mechanism which will be apparent, transparent, and reasonable. Without that, you cannot, by an executive order, and say, I'm going to take away the fundamental rights of somebody. That is the first concept of fundamental right, which is absolutely necessary to be fulfilled in any data privacy law, which is required to be upheld constitutionally. Second is this concept of whose data is it, to whom is it being given, and for what purpose. Now, originally in the GDPR is the law applicable in Europe, which was which evolved after about 5-6 years of constant consideration. All other countries' laws which we looked about talked of the data subject as the person who gives the data. I objected to it and I said, hey, look, after Queen Victoria went away and after King Charles went away and Queen Elizabeth also went away from this country, I am not anybody's subject. Why should you call me a subject? I am the person who gives you the data, so I should be called a data principal. This was accepted by the committee unanimously. And if you'll notice, in all the three versions of the bill, the expression used is the data principal. So data principal is the person whose data you are accessing. Then who is the person who is accessing the data? It's my data, I'm giving it to somebody for some purpose. Let's say I go and buy an airline ticket. They will ask me data, something like my mobile number, my email ID, my address, etc. So all that is data I'm giving to them in the belief and in the faith that they will utilize it only for the purpose of issuing me a ticket and for the purpose of enabling secure forward journey to me. I don't give it to them for any other purpose. So there are two concepts inherent in that. One is that I am giving to them on faith. So that is what is called in law as a fiduciary relationship. So therefore, if I am data principal, the person who takes it from me has a fiduciary relationship. So he should be called a data fiduciary. That is what the bills, all the three bills have expressed. Then the next is, the concept is that data cannot be taken away from me without my consent, because it is my data. So therefore, consent of the data fiduciary is the fundamental bottom line of the whole process. Then can the fiduciary take, now can the airline, I give you the example of the airline, can they take my data and give it away to sari manufacturer so that they can bombard my wife with email IDs and advertisements? That cannot be done. So there is what is known as the purpose limitation. The person who takes the data with my consent must utilize it only for the purpose for which it has been given and for nothing else. And for everything else, he has to come back to me and get my consent. So my consent becomes the principal issue of the entire process of data. So if somebody were to take away my data, either from my hands or from the hands of my data fiduciary without my consent, that would be called a breach of my right. And mind you, a breach of my right of privacy, which is a fundamental right of mine. Then becomes the situation that can there be a consent which can arise even though I do not expressly consent. Now, all of you must have had this experience. You walk into a hotel or you walk into an establishment or any other place. There's a security camera that takes your photograph automatically. That is necessary for the purpose of security of the establishment. Therefore, in such cases, one can say that there is a deemed consent. By walking into a particular area, your photograph is likely to be taken and kept on the record for certain purposes. And therefore, it is called what is known as involuntary or deemed consent. Consent will also be an issue with regard to minors. The Contract Act tells us that anybody who is less than 18 years is a minor, and the contract with the minor has been declared to be void right from the famous Mohori Bibi's case rendered by Privy Council way back. So any contract with a minor who is less than 18 years is invalid. In today's world, what has happened is the minors are smarter than us. They use the internet more than we do. So they are likely to enter into all kinds of websites for different purposes. Websites, of course, are of different purposes and different characters. There are excellent websites which help children learn things. For example, when I went to London, my grandson wanted to know whether I've heard of something called Khan Academy. I said, I've never heard it. Then he said, don't you know, it's a very nice website where they teach you higher mathematics. And he was good enough to show me what it was and etc. Now, my grandson is only 11 years old, obviously a minor by the legal standards. So if I insist that he cannot operate the computer, get into the internet and enter the website of an academy which teaches him mathematics, I'm depriving him of a source of knowledge. Therefore, the million-dollar question is, should all minors be kept away from the internet, kept away from entering into a situation where they were entered into by clicking on the website, they enter into a contract. Can I say that such a contract is void? Therefore, how do I take care of minors is another issue which the law needs to carefully monitor. Then you have concepts like data localization or data sovereignty. Now, this is something that has arisen in the context of cross-border transfers of data. Now, you know, today's in the commerce, world of commerce, your business is not confined only to Indian territory. Everybody aspires to have business across the territory, and there is a lot of money to be made by this cross-border commerce and industry and business. Now, when that happens, there is a little peculiarity of this situation which needs to be carefully monitored. You know, each country is a sovereign. A sovereign is a person who gives the command of what he wants to say. And it is the duty of all subjects of the sovereign to abide by the sovereign's dicta. This is the old classical theory of English law. Now, we have translated that in democratic terms to mean that the parliament makes laws in these countries. Those laws are valid within the territory of India and on some occasions even extraterritorially. And they have to be obeyed by everybody in India. But please note, this is true of every country. So if America makes a law, American law is not to be obeyed by me. They cannot enforce their law on me. Nor can Indian law be enforced on America. This gives rise to a peculiar situation. In today's world, there are a lot of multinational corporations which carry on business all over the world. So imagine a situation where a multinational corporation has its establishment in India, in Delhi or Bombay, Kanpur, wherever. The question then arises is, where should they maintain the personal data that comes into their possession of customers, employees, etc.? Where should they keep it? Obviously, they say, no, my company's headquarters are in California. I'll keep it on a server there. It is more convenient to me. That is the natural reaction of a person who is doing business in India. This gives rise to a situation where that data will never be accessible to the Indian law enforcement authorities. Why? Take a situation that there is a valid law under which a warrant has been issued by a competent authority that somebody's personal data needs to be accessed. When you go to execute that warrant, that company will say, sir, I don't keep the data here. The data is in California or Timbuktu or wherever it is. So I can't give it to you just for the asking of it. So what do I do? Then the only option is to go through what is known as the Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty, under which it's a very complicated affair of partly judicial, partly executive, partly diplomatic process, which takes almost 2 years to fructify. Now, something like the extradition treaty, we all know what is happening to Vijay Mallya. We all know about the fraud in PNB was detected almost 3 years ago. Till today, nothing has happened. The gentleman is enjoying life in London. Why? Because the law is very complicated in that situation. So can this be entertained? You see, there may be a situation when you are chasing terrorists, trying to interdict terrorist financial dealings, and you want access to data, and the data lies in some corner of the world, and you can't access it. For that reason, the concept of localization was advocated. So localization was opposed by the multinationals on the ground, that it increases their costs of doing business because they would have to have a data center here. The answer given by the committee was that you don't have to have a data center. Just keep a copy of the data wherever you may maintain it on a server. Just keep a live copy so that it's accessible, or in the alternative, give an undertaking to the government of India that I'll produce it within 24 hours or 48 hours as and when demanded. That was not accepted, and I must say, and I'm a little surprised that they have completely done away with this concept under the new 2022 bill. And what that will lead to is really a worrisome question to me. I've had discussions with top police cyber security authorities, and they have told me that if they really implement this bill, security of data will become impossible for us. We'll never be able to control it. That is one aspect. Then the question is, how do you have this guarantee that when I transfer data from my country to another country, it is going to get the same security that is necessary in that country? So there is this concept of what is known as in England they called it the data shield. It is also known as the test is, does the country to which you are sending the data have the same legal mechanism for protection of data as we have it? So the answer given to that is, well, very simple. Examine it, look at it from our point of view, and if it is compatible with the same level of protection that we have in India, then we'll enter into an agreement or an international treaty under which we'll transfer the data. This was going on fine. You know, in England, not in England, sorry, in Ireland, and particularly in Europe, there were a number of companies which were doing business and transmitting data to American companies. And in order to do that, they entered into an agreement known as the Data Shield Agreement. Data Shield Agreement only said that the level of security of data in my country is the same as yours. Therefore, let us freely transfer the data. Now, that was challenged in two judgments, and the European Court of Commission struck down this data shield in famous judgment known as the Schrems judgment by saying, no, you can't do this, because in America, there is a law which allows the federal authorities to take away anybody's data which is residing in United States without the consent of the data principal. Therefore, the test of what is known as the test of adequacy is not completely satisfied. So they struck down this concept of adequacy. Now, in a situation as the 2022 bill has contemplated, if you have absolute freedom to transfer data, how the test of adequacy is going to be met, and are we going to be faced with the same situation which has resulted from the Schrems judgment in Europe, is something that we all have to think about it. And I do hope that somebody in power seriously applies his mind to it. Then we have another issue of when should this law come into force. I'm sorry, I can go on and on and on. Otherwise, I'll disrupt your whole schedule. I'll take another 5-10 minutes, that's all. I assure you, this is not Ramayana. You see, this is Ramayana. I can go on for 7 days continuously. Saptah kar sakta hu, isme nahi karna chahiye. Acha. What was I talking about? Adequacy, test of adequacy is not fulfilled. Now you will have issues like who is going to be the regulator here? The original report and the original 2018 bill contemplated that data security is such an important issue. Why is it an important issue? It is linked to Article 21. Article 21 is one of the highest priorities in the Constitution. So therefore, the regulator must be an independent body. Now, how do you form an independent body? Since it is a highly complex subject, it was suggested that it should consist of, academicians who understand the subject, practitioners who understand the subject, experts from this country and abroad who would be nominated to it, and also government representatives headed by an independent person like a sitting or a former judge. Now, if that is done, then at least there is an independent body which is going to look at it. Now, if the body is to be constituted only by nominees of the government of India or by, as the 2022 bill says, by persons whom the government will ultimately decide to make members, that may not assure it the level of independence that is required of a regulator. Now, take for example the RBI or the Telecom Authority or the SEBI. Each one of them is a regulator ultimately subject to the government of India and the parliament. But in his or her sphere, there is total autonomy. That was lacking in that. So that is one aspect to be considered. Now, if regulator has to act, how does he act? Can he go around thinking whatever he wants to do and carry on with his work? The committee has in its report suggested that you should give at least 2 years time for people to understand the concept. Because businesses have already brought about their software. That software will have to be rejigged to keep in line with the concept of privacy and the law that is going to be enforced. So before that, within the first 6 months, ensure that a regulator, which was called under the original report as the Data Protection Authority, would be established, an independent authority, would have a constant dialogue with different sectors, understanding their data privacy issues, their best practices, formulate them into regulations, and after obtaining consensus or views of the data stakeholders, formulate them into regulations, apply them. And this would give a span of at least 2 years for the general public, for the business entities to understand the implications of the law so that they can reorient their thinking, they reorient their systems to fall in line with the law. Now, that is something that needs to be done. And finally, my biggest criticism of the law as it has been formulated both in the 2019 bill and the 2022 bill is, the 2022 bill is disastrous in my opinion. If the basic constitutional law in this country is that a fundamental right cannot be abridged except by valid parliamentary law. Now to say in a law that this law will be exempt, all the government, rather the government will have the authority or power to exempt all or any of the government departments from all or any of the sections of the law is virtually to give a blank check to the government and putting excess power into the government, which is not healthy in a democracy. Now, these are some of the thoughts that I have had after analyzing the different bills. I have presented some of them to the government, and I am currently holding some consultations with people who are experts in the subject, and then formulating the difficulties that is going to be faced both by ordinary individuals in the country, citizens and non-citizens, business entities, and even security agencies to say how the law should be reached. Let's see. Finally, I leave a thought with you. In my opinion, this subject has 3 dimensions. It is like, imagine a upright triangle. There is a vertex there, 2 vertices at the sides. The vertex there is the most important, and that is the individual, the human being. One of the vertices on the side is the state, because state needs to protect the individual rights. And finally, the individual needs a lot of input and from the industries and businesses. Therefore, they are the third vertex. How the 3 vertices are to be balanced is as good as solving a process of triangle of forces. 3, we do it in mathematics all the time. Where is the resultant force going to come, and how the resultant force. I hope that the resultant force, whichever comes out of balancing the 3 forces, will certainly lead the country forward in its progress, the path of progress. And last of all, what is law after all? Law is nothing but formulation of a principle so that the individuals can transact their interpersonal relationship without conflict in society. Whether it is law or technology, it is intended for the human beings. Law by itself has no meaning if it is not applied to human beings. Similarly, technology. Now, this is a cyber security seminar where you will talk about zero trust and then hash values and all the things, that jargon that can be culled out of technology. irrespective of what the technology is, whether data can be secured by using hash values with the concept of zero trust or even using computational mathematics. Ultimately, quantum mechanics actually. What are you doing? You are securing something that is valuable to the human being. That is the purpose of the law also. The law also says secure something that is valuable to the human beings. When in that area, law and technology have the same objective, although they travel from different directions. Now, the seminar should therefore generate some kind of a unidirectional approach by mixing both and saying how the balance should be maintained. The better the balance, the better it is for society. The better the balance, the better it is for the country. The better the balance, the better it is for the world. Thank you very much for giving me a patient hearing. My compliments to the organizers of this seminar. I wish the seminar great success. I haven't had the opportunity of reading the papers in the book that is published. I shall happily read them and improve the frontiers of my knowledge. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, truly, thank you very much, sir. It was truly very enlightening for us, where we could discern the difference between data, its definition, and how our right to privacy could be preserved and secured. Thank you very much, sir. It's first time experience for me, and it should be for most of us sitting over here, that we are seeing a judge of a Supreme Court really and before us live manner. Thank you very much, sir. Now I would request our next, the chairman of this inaugural session, Honorable Madam Ananta Swarupji, to come over the dais and deliver her presidential address. Madam Ananta Swarupji.
A very good morning to you all. Our Honorable Chief Guest, Justice B.N. Krishnaji, an eminent jurist, former Justice Supreme Court of India. I extend a warm welcome to you, sir. Our special guest, Professor R.K. Dwivedi, Director CDC, Chhatrapati Shahuji Maharaj University, Kanpur. Respected Principal of DAV College and convener of the seminar, Professor Arun Kumar Dikshit. Organizing Secretary of the seminar, Professor Vinod Mohan Mishra, eminent guests, respected faculty members, all participants of the seminar, members of staff and students. It is my pleasure and honor to be present here today for this national seminar on India's cybersecurity, challenges and options, organized by the Department of Military Studies, sponsored by ICSSR. I stand here today in this historic college representing the journey and toil of our forefathers, late Sri Rai Bahadur ji, Sri Bijen Swarup ji, Dr. Viren Swarup ji, and our very own Dr. Nagain Swarup ji, who till recently was the backbone and life of this institution. I hope we all take the ideals and goals associated with this place forward of continued growth and success. The issue of this seminar is a very current and relevant one, as cybercrime has unfortunately become increasingly rampant. Cybercrime, the fastest growing threat to the digitalization of economy, in one click, it has the capacity of great destruction by means of financial frauds, cyber extortion, identity thefts, phishing, hacking, credit card thefts, personal data hacking, cyber stalking, virus spreading, and illegal downloading, etc. As modern economy and society has made technology an important tool of survival, however, its use has unleashed a parallel network of security labs, whereby even our national level premier bodies become prey of hacking and thereby strengthening national security in cyber world becomes of paramount importance. Many challenges that are faced with regard to cybersecurity in India include increasing online crimes against women, which are contributing to incidents of real crime against them. Certain provisions of Information and Technology Act, which needs to be amended. Acute shortage of skilled cybersecurity workforce in India. The expert and speakers will definitely explore the topic well and do justice to this and give solutions to the problem. We all will benefit from their learnings. It is not only national but global security as a whole which can be easily compromised due to the wide reach of cyber network as it functions without any borders or boundaries. The new generation needs to be technologically very advanced and protected by the government with legislation to fight against any misuse of cyber laws and protect it against cyber crimes. I congratulate the organizing committee and principal of the college for a very well organized seminar. I once again thank Justice B.N. Sri Krishna ji, who has spared his very valuable time and given this seminar some very important words of his wisdom. And it has been delightful to listen to him today. Thank you, sir. Professor Dwivedi for gracing the occasion and all eminent guests here today. My very best wishes to the success of the seminar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Now I can see one more distinguished guest I have missed to greet. I would request Professor D.P. Rao sir to greet Professor Mamta Dixit ma'am from uh, Mahila Mahavidyalaya. Professor D.P. Rao sir. In fact, just as I am finding the guest sitting over here, I am doing that. So please. Thank you, Rao sir. Now it's time for vote of thanks. I would invite Principal sir to come over the dais and deliver his vote of thanks for the inaugural session.
Thank you, V.K. Dubey. Again, before I start, I must remember the immortalized soul of late Sri Nagen Sarupji, who was our conscience keeper and custodian all through his tenure as the secretary of the board of management of this college. His noble soul must be showering its blessings on us from heavens to conclude the seminar with finish. My heart is filled with a sense of immense gratitude for the dignitaries gracing the stage with their luminous presence. My sense of gratitude is no less for the dignitaries and participants of the dais in the audience. Their capacitous presence in this historic conference hall is lending an overwhelming grandeur to the inaugural session of this significant seminar on India's cyber security. I convey my sincere thanks to Justice B.N. Sri Krishna ji, who could spare some time from his extremely busy schedules to grace the occasion as the chief guest and the keynote speaker. Our sense of obligation to Justice Sri Krishna has broken all the bounds as he chairs the next session of the seminar. Honorable Justice Sir, thank you very much for your graceful and enlightening presence among us, sir. I thank Madam Ananta Swarupji from the bottom of my heart for gracing this occasion as the chairperson. Your being among us on the occasion is extremely encouraging. I thank Professor Dwivedi sir for taking out some time from his engrossing professional schedules for gracing us as the special guest of this occasion. Your presence among us is inspirational. I thank Professor V.M. Mishraji, the organizing secretary of the seminar, who must have taken onerous steps in organizing the seminar. I convey my sincere thanks to the invited guests who are here to witness the unfolding of a chain of brainstorming on a very important topic that is relevant not only for our national security and sovereignty, but also for individual privacy. Finally, I thank the media persons, faculties, and scholars who made the occasion truly a worthy exercise. Thank you all once more. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you, Principal Sir, for your vote of thanks. Now, you must be feeling sapped of energy. And next session, that is the first technical session of the seminar, shall start at 12:30. It has been rescheduled. In fact, it had to start from 12, but now, because of certain delays, it will resume. We all shall reassemble here in this seminar hall at 12:30 to participate and witness the developments in the first technical session of the seminar. So we shall disperse for a tea break, and the arrangement of tea and the snacks has been made in the DAV lawn, that is adjoining outside itself. Okay, okay, okay. Just I am sorry for that. In fact, I was having the perception that it is arranged in the DAV lawn. So arrangements have been made just outside the venue. So you just refresh yourself and reassemble in the seminar hall sharp at 12:30. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, all the dignitaries and the guests.
सर नमस्कार